Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS Proving Grounds, powered by Verizon. Again, I am Mazel, joined by my good friend Rebel Fox, and we got a series on our hands.
That we do. We came into this one expecting more games. I wasn't sure if we were going to get 3, but here we are. We're at game number 3. Both teams with a pretty convincing win underneath of their belt, and we're going to get to see what the conclusion of this one is. Obviously, neither team wants to take a departure. Both of them are certainly talented enough to continue. It's a shame we have to lose one of them, but Mr. Mazel, we're going to have to lose one here in very, very quick fashion.
That's what I was just going to highlight. Thank you, Rebel, for leading us into that, because this is put up or shut up moment for both these squads. 100 Thieves Academy, Immortals Academy. Like, this is it. This is your Proving Grounds run coming to an end today if you do not win this next game. And I want to highlight the importance of that coming off of the back of two very separated but very strong games from either team. And we get to see a little bit of that here of the second game that we saw in 100 Thieves' tries to come back into it. But Immortals Academy, with the execution, with the confidence coming in that we were kind of highlighting to after game number 1, it's setting us up for such a wonderful finish to this series.
And for 100 Thieves, their fighting looked good even though they were down a bunch of gold, which shows how proficient they are at team fighting to actually find themselves the ability to do those kinds of things. So I will say they have that possibility. Come back to team fight, come back to standard. That looks really good for you. But Immortals also, they came out in game 1, did not have any aggression. We're not looking into anything. Now in game 2, they came out very, very aggressive and were able to make things happen. So I got to give a lot of faith to them. Being able to change up strategy in the midst of a series like that is huge. And being able to kind of realign yourselves with what's been successful for you has been another really big moment here for the side of Immortals as well, coming into the second game. As now it's a battle of, okay, Immortals, how good do they do in the earlier stages of the game versus how equalized are the 5-on-5 fights for the side of 100 Thieves? Can they win those fights as well?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me is like Kenvi on the Nocturne. The ideas were there, my dude. Like the ideas, he had the executions, he had the foresight to being able to kind of pull some of those off, but it was the gold lack. It was the team fight composition coming out from Immortals Academy. Like, I want to see a change of that kind of going forward for 100 Thieves Academy, because I do feel like they have some strong pieces individually. But again, it comes down to a lot of that team play, trying to get everybody ahead, trying to pull those resources to those solo lanes and try to find advantages for Demonte, for Tenacity, where that didn't exist in that second game.
No, it felt like all of their lanes were at least a slight, if not just a major disadvantage over the course of the entire first parts of our series. And then that just led into a really poor later game where their fighting might have looked good, but they had no chance of winning it because they just don't have the stats readily available for it. So right now, coming in to try to take this series between these two teams, we've highlighted how important it is, and the fact that these two teams now are backs up against the wall yet again within this best of 3, trying to compete against another one of these academy teams. And you think, like right now, we're at like the 12th through 8th place or 12th through 9th place teams at the moment. This was the 3rd best academy team and the 5th best academy team coming out. Neither one of them had to play in play-ins. They both did well at Northern Arena. Like, these teams, they don't deserve to leave yet, or at least you don't think that they deserve to leave yet. You've seen the level of play they're capable of bringing. So now, I mean, it would be disheartening, I would say, for either team to have to lose this one. So I'm really looking forward to see what kind of picks get brought out, what kind of play get brought out, who these teams are going to be relying on now that it really is crunch time for them.
And we talked a lot about it already, but the pivotal matchup here has got to be Kenvi versus Potluck again. I mean, it's been so monumental in how the early game has gone, how the pathing has gone, how the objective control has gone, which we've seen has been a huge telling point of this series so far, right? You get all that objective control, that team just typically wins here. As you saw a ton of objective control that soul gained by 100 Thieves Academy in that first game. This one, Immortals Academy able to slam that home really quickly. And going into this next game, I have to say, I love the Nocturne. Kenvi, I believe in you. I know the Nocturne is something you might like to play, but I want to see something more aligned with what they had in game number 1.
Yeah, the Nocturne's a good idea when it comes to trying to force fights, but
again,
also they built around. Yeah, the idea's there for at least the Nocturne, but then building the composition around it, I think, got a little bit messy. So, like, you think of the two mid pools right now, like the mid pool of 100 Thieves is really deep, and Immortals, like, it's not as deep. They're playing pretty standard stuff. But when you've got like I think Demonte's played like Ari. I think he's played like Renekton. He's played like Echo. Like there's so many different options here for trying to push out mid lane. I think this matchup between junglers has now become much less of okay, it's Kenvi versus Potluck. It's now how does Kenvi get Demonte out of lane versus how does Potluck get his mid laner pretty out of lane. And whoever is able to make impact on the map faster, at least that's what we've seen in the first 2 games, is which mid laners having more impact on the map. And so far, whichever one does is able to take the game. Perhaps that's swayed to some extent, but I think that's become more of the goal now, is to make sure your mid laners are having interactions within team fights, within skirmishes, and around these objectives, as you had highlighted just a second ago.
And I wonder how much priority is going to be on that Orianna. I've seen it twice. It's won both games. Hey, who knows? I'm not saying anything, but maybe we see an Orianna ban coming out for this 3rd game, because that Orianna pick, like, in general, it's such a stable pick in the mid lane. If you get it ahead, obviously it excels. But the team fight, the spacing, the just being able to have those shockwaves on the back line, like we saw Pretty execute so many times in that last game, Demonte execute so many times in the first game. I wonder if we see that kind of shied away from it in terms of getting the bans onto that specific pick, because I feel like with the way that both these teams want to play, a lot of focus around those junglers, a lot of focus on Udi or Hecarim, even though, it was the Nocturne last time for Kenvi. That ball delivery system, that shockwave setup is so huge for how these teams want to play, or those types of abilities. So I wonder if we see a little bit more index for at least 100 Thieves Academy into that team fight composition as well.
It would make sense to me for them to want to really put a high priority on Orianna. Demonte is good at it, and it fits into anything they want to do, because if you're trying to take smaller skirmishes, it fits with a lot of junglers, and if you're taking big team fights, you still have that massive tool that can come through, as well as being able to support your team with E's, Qs, things of that sort. So it's definitely there. I am really shocked also that we have not seen any Volibear at all. It's been like the most picked champion for Tenacity, and also Potluck has played it a lot. Neither one of these teams has come towards it with like a 10-foot pole right now, which is mildly shocking to me. And I'm curious if one of these teams is willing to take it. I know it might be a little bit out of what they're looking for in this 3rd game, or at least depending on their game plan, it could change things up. But it feels like there is a difference maker in one of these lanes that has not yet been picked by either squad that could make a difference. So this is what we say. When back's against the wall, do you pull out Renekton and flex it between mid and top on the side of 100 Thieves? Do you pull out Lucian for Pretty in the mid lane, try to use that? How about Seraphine? Seraphine hasn't really dipped her head into the series whatsoever for the most part, except for in bans, I think. But plenty of champions that just have not been grabbed by either team that they found success with in the past.
I think the other thing for me is I was a little sad for Tenacity, right? He got the set against the Scion. I felt like you had that early aggression up there, but nothing came of it. I feel like Tapoon had a great performance on the Scion, was able to go mid, help out Pretty, get some advantages in that aspect, but was more so involved in the way that Immortals Academy approached the game, and was always looking to help out the team. And I think that's something that we saw in game 1 from 100 Thieves, and when they were down in gold, at least you think that confidence, that kind of mobility goes down, and maybe not as willing to join those big fights. But as the set, you saw some of those bright spots, you saw some of those engagements, the face breakers into the showstoppers, and those kinds of combinations. But you've got to find something that I feel like that sets you up a little bit better for Tenacity. This guy who we've known to be aggressive. He showed it in last game in the early parts of the game, but was able to find anything later on. And that's another piece I think will be very important going to this one for 100 Thieves Academy, because you can focus all day long about the team fight compositions, the scaling, the way that they execute the fights, but you've got to find leads in those solo lanes as well.
I'm gonna go through 2 points here. First off, Set was perma-picked in like 2020, 2019, whenever he came out. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was 2020.
Whatever days
alongside Ornn for basically half of a season. I feel no remorse for Set players in the top lane. None. Absolutely zero. And on the other side, I think Tenacity does better when he has a lane advantage. And I think against Tapoon, who plays a lot more for teamfight, as we saw in game number 1, that he's going to be aiming for those fights. To me, Tenacity needs to be more greedy. Play for that lane. I want to see him keep Tapoon locked in that top zone.
Let's see what happens as we dive into this Game 3 draft. This is the setup for this final potential match here between these squads. Either 100 Thieves Academy come away feeling confident in this one with the composition they love, or Immortals Academy come out on top. We'll have to see, Rebel. I want your diagnostics afterwards. But we already got some interesting bans, some very similar bans to what we've seen all series long, except for one. And it's that Orianna that comes through as a ban for Immortals Academy.
Not allowed. No Orianna allowed, unfortunately, for the side of 100 Thieves, as you know that they want to prioritize that. I don't know that they go R1 with it, but then the problem is then if IMT wants to, or my apologies, B1, then like R1, R2 starts to still get a little bit cloudy. As 100 Thieves get a chance to also still pinch off the bottom pool. So last game, they let the Tristana through. Keith looked very good on the Tristana, so they're making sure that that's not going to come through. Earlier game, it wasn't as impactful as maybe you would want it to be, but in the later game team fights, it did the DPS that was absolutely necessary. Notice also, Renekton taken off the board. That's Damonte, and it's also Tenacity, double pinching those pools. Thresh, also 100% win rate for Poom so far in the tournament, so it's not been shocking at all to see them continue to take that away. In fact, most red side teams are willing to take that one away. Hecarim is left unavailable, and 100 Thieves may be looking at that one first to try to deny it from Potluck.
And you've got to feel pretty confident. Obviously, both blue side wins already so far, and having that kind of aspect to it. The Hecarim does come out for the first time of this series for Kenvi, who will be picking that up in game number 3. It provides them a lot of mobility, a lot of engage potential there for themselves. So I like that pick to start us off for 100 Thieves Academy. The other side, though, they get Keith on the Kai'Sa, which we've seen Kai'Sa be so strong in this series so far. In general, at least, even in last game, Luger had 3 kills on him with no deaths, so we'll see. But it is paired up with that Rel, another very strong mainstay in the meta.
Instead, I think got taken off, or it was Tom Kench that got banned out, I believe, last game by 100 Thieves on red side. They haven't quite locked it in, but a Senna Tom Kench lane could be on the books for them to be able to snack that one away as a defense to the Kai'Sa. I know Xayah is also something that could be played potentially, as we've seen that one before, and I believe is that actually something that has been played by Luger. So this makes a lot more sense. I think Senna Tom Kench is a defensive lane. You can't aggress against it very well with the likes of the Rel, so you got to get out of lane. It does lock in this more laning style as opposed to roaming until you get into the team fighting, which is helpful and not helpful for Academy, as now you don't have the support for dragon plays and things like that. But at minimum, you do have really good team fighters for Luger and Poom, and no aggression to come out from IMT.
And that's where I think it's going to be so interesting and how this bot lane kind of affects the way that the rest of the map is played, because you do have this strong lane presence there, trying to keep that farm going on the side of Luger and Poom, and on the other side, if Joey can get unlocked and kind of try to keep out and help out Potluck especially, and like that's where you see a lot of the success come down in how they like to play. So the Udyr comes through, tried and true matchup. Would have thought that it's Graves Lilia from last year, but it's Hecarim Udyr coming through. Just give us another power duo of that jungle matchup.
Yeah, also taking the Rise away. I know it's funny because this is something that Damonte plays, but I know Tenacity also plays it because his pool is just massive as well. So not wanting to give away that flex. It is almost certainly mid lane right now because there's just not that much flexibility for Rise in the top side. But taking that one away, both mid pools likely to get pinched off a little bit here because these mid laners, again, have had so much impact when they get broken loose of the laning phase. Now no Orianna to come to. Rise and Azir both taken off the board. And what else do these teams actually decide on to take away from their opposition?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question here. If we see more of that solo lane focus, I do want to go back to the point you've been saying, like, and I just want to highlight it one more time. Like Damonte and Pretty feel like the heartbeat of this series so far, right? You've got the flailing arms, you got everything going else, going crazy. Can be trying to reach out, Pollock trying to reach out, but inside, the way that these teams are working, Damonte and Pretty have been a very big tell on how the game is going for both of them. We do get to see a little bit more particular focus there as the volley bear is going to come off the board for IMT Academy.
Will. Again, one of these picks that might be flexible, but more so for Tenacity to be able to respond to something in the right situation, as it's blindable into a number of matchups. And Victor taken off as another flex pick that, or another kind of blind pick that could be put into the mid lane. So now, does IMT go to Sion? Because that is something that you could pick for Top Moon as a potential grab here to blind one of your solo lanes and give priority for Pretty. This isn't something special. We see this all the time. It happens in all of the Academy games. Sion is just the best blind top laner right now, especially when other champions have been removed from the board.
Yeah, and this is the response that I want to see, right? 100 Thieves are going to have to pick up their 2. They're going to leave that counter pick open and available to the mid laner, but for Pretty at least. But this, you can't deal with that. You can't think about that too heavily. You got to go with something that's going to be comfort for you, something that you're going to succeed on. And I do believe, it is going to be that Aatrox coming in for Tenacity.
Will. And now mid lane is under consideration. You've got kind of a mid-range composition right here. Cinder is going to get locked in for Damonte, which is for the range that it's got and the CC that it's got, as well as into the team we're currently looking at with like Sion and Udyr and a lot of run-at-you type champions. This is a champion that can absolutely succeed in that setting.
I like the Syndra picked up for Damonte. A little tried and true press R button action coming through. We get a little spice Coming to finish us out for IMT Academy, though, Echo coming in for pretty against that Syndra matchup.
And you want to talk about like pure laning, Syndra is going to be good into this because like you can actually just drop a bunch of range damage onto Echo. As long as you save your E, it's difficult for Echo to get that ability in. But if you're playing to that mid lane like Potluck is expected to do, if you're able to burn early summoner spells from the likes of the Syndra, there's difficulty to be had on the horizon as the Echo can absolutely side lane against it. It can kill it in this laning phase. It's really good at pressuring off into backliners and things like that. And Tahm Kench has only one W, so you got to protect either Syndra or Senna. One of them's going down to the Echo when he gets into the backline.
The other thing I want to talk about here is like, this is exactly what I wanted for both these compositions, right? Like we have the potential early game bridge into the late game. You have a lot of influence that you can have skirmishing early on, but you still have the tried and true team fight compositions that are going to bring us that 25, 30-minute fight in front of those objectives where it's all craziness, fireworks everywhere, and that's what I'm hoping for. If one of these teams obviously can get a lead early, that changes things as you go into later fights, but if things stay even, this is going to be a battle of time.
It will. I'll say 100 Thieves in terms of 5-on-5 composition, they've got range advantage for days when it comes to the Syndra and the Senna. Because right now you're rocking 4 melee champions and just the 1 range champion, which again is Kai'Sa. This is what happened last game as well for 100 Thieves, and you saw that they would get bullied from time to time. So expectation for 100 Thieves to take the lead means IMT have got to get proactive, play like they did in game 2, get this Echo going fast.
Proactivity is key as we hit the rift for the final time of Proving Ground for one of these teams. 100 Thieves Academy up against Immortals Academy.
I'm ready to watch what is one of my least favorite champions mid lane just get bullied, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Demonte. I do not like Syndra in the slightest, and Echo is a good matchup into it and will bully her if you get an advantage. So if you're Potluck, again, I think you have Flash, you've got the ability to get on top. Even if you're trading Flash for Demonte's, that's advantageous because all of a sudden your Echo's laning phase, which is something that can be pressed on by Syndra early on to try to mitigate some of the strength Echo's got into this matchup, that's the only thing that you got going for you. So if your lane starts to get pulled away or just destroyed by the likes of Udyr coming in, getting a flash off you, or even getting kills for the Echo, all of a sudden there is absolutely no semblance for Syndra other than being a stun bat, which is what she is most of the time anyway. But I'm not going to talk about that.
Hey, she's got an R button and she likes to press it.
You
all
say
right?
that, but it doesn't do any damage. When it gets blocked by a single guardian.
Okay.
I've seen it. I've seen it get blocked by a single guardian.
I've seen it. All right, we'll see how that works out, though, as we do get the opposite side starts for both these junglers yet again for the second game in a row. We'll see how that kind of works out to that early skirmishing we were highlighting about.
Interesting. So you're seeing there was not only a red ward that got put down against Kenvi here on his red buff, which I actually spotted out. Actually, it didn't, or it was really early and it just expired. But they also put this Tribrush ward down, not only as a way of defending against a gank setup from Kenvi, but notice that Potluck's on top side, clearing full to bot side, and you know that Senna Tahm Kench probably has good pushing pressure because Luger wants to just drop auto attacks into Keith and Joy, so they have to play a little further back. So Potluck, if he gets to bottom side and this ward's here, they know there's no defensive ward, and they have the vision to get him into Tribrush completely freely. This could be a play from the side of IMT to get Potluck to gank Luger and Boom very quickly into this game.
And that's another thing that I wanted to highlight. We're talking about the compositions in general and whatnot, but in like waiting for late game, having some scaling options available to them. Luger needs to wait a while, right? Like you're trying to get those souls up. You're trying to make sure you get to those item spikes. Let the farming go over to Poom early on and try to just buy as much time as you can for that bot. If you're getting tussled on by Potluck early on, that's definitely not where you want. You don't want to be giving those leads over to the Kai'Sa early because that skirmishing just gets stronger and stronger, and Kai'Sa can hit those break points quicker.
That you can. There's not a lot of ability to kill really tanky members, I think, also, except for the Kai'Sa. So there's a lot of heavy lifting that Keith needs to do within this composition. Because it's like, okay, if you're considering Syndra and you're considering Senna and like those two, it's pretty easy for Pretty to try to get onto them and to make this aggressive play into backline, become this diver and this assassin. But into Aatrox, who's going to have a bunch of damage and tankiness, and then even into Poom, who's going to be insanely tanky, it's got to be Keith. Keith is the only person who can handle them to start off this game. So they're putting a lot of faith into perhaps one of the more veteran players we have in all of Academy and Amateur right now in this player, Keith, who's been around. I mean, he's TSM, TLA, C9, back when he's in Academy, all of these different teams, GGA as support, and all these different places that possibility is there. And they're relying on him right now to be this workhorse in this composition.
And speaking of workhorses, the horse was pushed off the scuttle crab. Kenvi was not allowed to get that top scuttle crab. It was a double scuttle pull up from Potluck. Well, at least they were going to get that advantage for them as well. A little bit of pace increase. I think is a good tempered aggression coming out from 100 Thieves Academy, though, knowing they probably don't need to fight early on. They're waiting a little bit longer.
They are. Not wanting to force this. This is the second time now we've seen a Hecarim get double scuttled as well by an Udyr specifically, which is kind of the strength of Udyr, being able to control that early double scuttle. This came off the back of, again, it was a wave that got pushed off the tower by Luger and Boom, where I think, now that I'm looking back at it, or at least in hindsight 2020, you can consider that ward was only there to make sure that they could push back as soon as the wave bounced off their tower to buy Potluck that space. So maybe that's what they're looking for the whole time, was a bit more passive of play. I would like to see a gank bot lane, but I can also see that this setup was exclusively to make sure that the double scuttle would go through cleanly.
Yeah, and that sets you up for a little bit of objective control early, if you would like, as I combined all three of those words. 10 seconds for this first dragon will be this mountain dragon. A little bit of armor resist, magic resist and armor coming in. We'll see if they can actually get that early objective going, as we've seen been so key so far in this series, especially. And early on, you would expect it to be on the side of Potluck and IMT, right? They're trying to get this bot lane potentially ahead. They're seeing a lot of focus down towards this bot lane for Potluck. As we speak about it, see if they get the engage down here. There's the crash down immediately flashed out of by Luger. Not going to be anything to follow up. Just a little bit of soul collecting by the ADC for 100 Thieves Academy.
And it is one of the very rare situations where like that was like a geometric necessary flash, as like otherwise like Boom could maybe use the W if it's necessary to try to find something. Now into the mid lane goes Kenvi to try to push back Pretty.
Yeah, Pretty's trying to get over to Potluck. Does indeed get under that one. Oh, Tapu flashes forward. And so does Pretty, but they don't get the kills. Now we have the follow-up for the TP of Tenacity. He is on this Aatrox, does have a decent amount of damage. Flashes for the Q spot, doesn't get the kill, but Kenvi wants to go forward now. First blood goes over to Joey, but it's quickly followed up by a kill onto Kenvi. Potluck gets the kill into Demonte too. It's quickly 2-1 in favor of Immortals Academy.
So close. Joey's able to move out of this lane faster because, of course, this is a farming Tahm Kench. So, unfortunately, the Senna just doesn't move because you want to farm souls. But that means that Joey gets into this fight. Now another TP coming out from Demonte to find something. The E has got to be available, but I don't think they're actually going to be able to catch them at all as a 2-for-1 come down for the side of Immortals. It looks so close. Tenacity almost picks up a couple extra kills, but unfortunately, the Aatrox is not able to grab it.
I love the flash for the sweet spots. Gotta appreciate it, but unfortunately unable to get in. Here's the start of the fight here, Rebel, as Pretty just goes full in on Demonte.
Yeah, the E does not work for Demonte, and the setup's here for Kenvi to try to push him back in. So the damage is definitely here. The TP, well responded to. I think that one little hiccup right there might have cost Demonte a little bit of time, and maybe his flash as well, as if you're a little further back, Top Boom can't quite get to you. And here, Aatrox comes in, but again, look at bottom lane. They have Joey here, and nobody here from the side of 100 Thieves bot lane, because of course you have the farmer and the person who's stacking souls. And Tenacity, as hard as he tries to get some of these points, not able to get much. As over the wall goes Potluck with this flash, gets on top of Demonte, who no longer has flash, and the E means nothing when the stun comes out from the bear.
It's huge. And also Tenacity TPing into the fight with about a quarter of his health missing definitely does not help the situation. But has to pull the trigger on it, has to get there to help the teammates, and luckily they're able to get that one back, but it's still a good lead, at least a good advantage for Immortals in terms of this game in general, in the early game. But now we've got to see that focus transition to these objectives. Rift Herald coming up about 30 seconds, Potluck already starting up that first dragon.
Yeah, and the back had come through only just recently from Kenvi, so he's not going to be anywhere near this. They should be able to snag this extremely freely with Potluck, even though he walked over the Scuttle Crab to snag it. So they have vision of where they know that Potluck is going to be at, taking this dragon. It's only the first of the game, so it's not that big of a deal. But for a team, especially one that has very low range, the ability to control these objective rivers, just to walk in first and not have to walk in yourselves so close to the pit to have to turn for a fight, is it's really valuable. So thankfully, not going to have to worry about this one in this case. Instead, just going to take that first dragon and walk away. Topside push is here from Kenvi as well, as they're warding for this Rift Herald, or what could be, but a swap now coming out from Keith and Joey.
This could be an interesting conundrum down here, as Rift Herald's already been started up by 100 Thieves Academy. I think they want to pull off immediately, though. You got 5 members coming around here from Immortals Academy. They definitely want to take this objective, as the unstoppable onslaught comes out onto Kenvi. He's going to use the onslaught of shadows out of there, as Tenacity's still there with the world, and they're still trying to be a team fight threat. But that's the Rift Herald picked up by Immortals Academy, and that's been the story so far of this game 3.
Yeah, the shoving bot lane from Keith and Joey, and then the farm had to come through from Poom, where they tried to move their Senna exclusively, but not enough people come up here for this value. I think blue buff also just got taken by Kenvi, which is why we saw a zoom in right there, as no blue buff for Syndra. It does make it harder to shove in this Echo with this range advantage, so at least a little bit of something, not the most impactful, but still something to consider, as Top Boon now takes a gank.
Yeah, Top Boon's gonna die up here to the duo of Tenacity and Kenvi. Gonna give Tenacity a little bit of gold in his pocket, a little bit of an advantage on the Aatrox, hoping to help that into the team fights, as we did get just the trade back, the repositioning from both the bot lanes to the bot side of the map.
I'll say, I think Tenacity's Aatrox could be one massive game changer here from 100 Thieves. Again, with low range to work with when you're talking about Cylon or like 3 melees, 4 melees here, these Qs can really be a deterrent to try to walk into a fight. And especially when you don't have anybody but Keith that's capable of putting damage in, that means that there's so much CC and so much kind of fat you have to burn through here for Keith that Aatrox can actually run rampant in a fight. So I want to see 100 Thieves continue this train where Kenvi and Tenacity link up to put Top Boon in the dirt, make sure that Sion doesn't get way too bulky for the Senna, who, again, side of 100 Thieves is not a great way to kill Sion either. So they got to make sure that tankiness isn't going to be there, and also that their really, really big kind of carry within fights in Aatrox is going to be capable of putting in a lot of work as well.
It's going to be important on how this game pans out as we crest that 10-minute mark. Still early on. More blood than we had last time around. We got a couple kills apiece on each side. But we do still have the switch. I thought they were going to keep the lanes the same. Nope. It's not. Top Boon's down bot lane. You have Keith and Joey positioning up towards that top side of the map.
I think you're perfectly comfortable with this. You're just trying to make sure that the Senna doesn't have time to actually pull soul. So if you keep pulling this lane swap shenanigans, we usually see this at a mid and top lane when you have like 2 champions that can rotate for preferable matchup, and you just keep swapping over and over and over again, and eventually someone runs out of farm. But in this case, it's Luger who's going to be falling behind in terms of souls, which is harmful, but not as harmful as normal. As I think Tom Kench is okay into the Sion lane. It means that there's no aggression into Sion at least, but this could open up for some aggression into the opposite side of the map if Kenvi wants to link up with Tenacity and Luger to put some aggression into this bottom lane of IMT.
And I love it because Luger's just hanging around Kenvi, trying to get the souls that he can from the jungle creeps as well. So min-maxing coming out, trying to make sure that they get these lane assignments right, get Luger still farming as much as he can in those situations. And it's just kind of funny to me that we've ended up with Top Boon versus Poom on the bot side.
Yeah, Poom is now a top laner, as it turns out. Tenacity is an ADC, and Luger is a support. Who would have thought that we ended up with these? And even better, all this on the opposite side of the map. So we're not seeing even proper lane setup for this. So shenanigans about is the best way to put this across everything. As I think this is harmful to pull experience out of Tenacity, but it does mean that now there's a large amount of kill threat onto these two, especially if you can get Kenvi here. So, like, I want to see them try to abuse this, because there's not much abuse that can come into Tom Kench on bottom side. There's a ton of abuse that can come onto Keith and onto Joey, which is why Potluck is hanging around this area, making sure there's nothing to go about if Kenvi were to come up here.
Does also have the Rift Herald that needs to be popped very soon, so it does look like they want to commit that to the top side of the map. Potluck already summoning that Rift Herald up there. Tenacity's still here, Luger's still here, but can they get some plates for Keith and the rest of the company, as they do get a couple off the back of that one? Just gonna have to burn it. It was almost coming up anyways. There was no real other position that you could have used it besides that mid lane potentially, but it will just go to that ADC trying to get Keith ahead on the Kai'Sa.
That it will, as they're able to now put themselves in a position where a bit of gold goes into everybody. Probably not the perfect usage, or not what they really want out of a Rift Herald, but at minimum will get them a bit of gold into a couple more members, as this game obscenely closer than either of the other two to this point, because usually we're seeing pretty decent leads develop, but here we are in this game number 3. Games pretty close to start things off, as playing around this next dragon could be big. They're actually TPing down to bottom lane Poom, and if Tenacity is aggressing against top lane with TP as well, so they're striking on 2 sides of the map as Dragon begins to spawn, and you know that's what 100 Thieves is looking for right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could have called it from a mile away. They sent everybody down there, even got the TP to make sure Poom was in position, and now they're getting the roam from Demonte that way as well. The Dragon had already been started up here, but you've got IMT Academy coming down to try and contest this, try to get their second Dragon of the game if they want to, as it's about half health now. and going to be aggressed on. This is what we've seen all game so far, though. You know, it's 100 Thieves Academy start up the objective. They get pushed off of it, and that ends up going over to IMT Academy. We'll see if Kenby can make that not happen this time around. He does smite it away, so that will be the Dragon secured. Dawning Shadow comes out to back him up. Magnet Storm comes through, though, and Poom is in some serious trouble here. Still does have the gray health available. And now Tenacity joins the fight. 100 Thieves Academy want to turn it. He's not going to pop the World Ender just yet, but they're looking to get the resets. Tenacity gets his first kill. Kenby getting very, very low. The parallel convergence right in the middle of the team, but the Onslaught of Shadows leaves Kenby to his death. Doesn't matter, though. Tenacity's picking up the slack, and Tenacity is on a killing spree at this point. Poom comes in with the Abyssal Voyage on the backside of the fight. That's a quick couple kills going over for one for 100 Thieves Academy. Apologies.
100 Thieves come to this Dragon Pit, and they're like, okay, we could try fourth. They're poking back and forth, and Kenby gets the smite down onto the Dragon, and we thought that was the end of the play, but once the ultimate spur from Joey, there's no response in the team fight, so all it takes is a teleport from Tenacity to break open the rest of the play. You'll get to see this. I love the position from Pretty to be on the backside of this. This is really tough for 100 Thieves. The fact that they secure this Dragon is really close. I love the use of the E from Luger as well. The guys, it falls off a little bit short, but that's why I want to push IMT back there for a short second. The smite fight goes the way of Kenby. They're able to pull away, and Joey tries to make something happen with a flash ultimate, gets pushed away by Damonte, but once that's down, what do you actually have left to fight with? So here comes Tenacity with this Aatrox, so hard to deal with. Damage is here as well. It's not super high from the side of 100 Thieves to start with, but they got more than enough to deal with inside of this tank to find these kills. Pretty tried to find a flank. Down goes Kenby in the backline, but they end up trading another one back as the Aatrox is just too much to handle right now.
Yeah, I mean, Kenby realizes he's probably going to go down, need to use the tools that are available to him anyways. The Onslaught of Shadows came out of the back line, helping set up the rest of those kills. I just love it because you're interchanging this front line, right? Kenby was the one starting up that fight, ends up getting taken down. Tenacity picks up the mantle right away.
I want to notice something really quickly. So we pointed out the fact that Keith is pretty much the only person that can actually deal with the frontliners here when it comes to Tenacity and Poom and Kenby normally. However, it's not Chem Tank on the Hecarim. It's going to be Divine Sunderer as a way to get this burst damage out into Keith and into Pretty when they try to make these plays happen. If they kill Keith, there's no way to kill Tenacity. It's not going to happen in any fight. So there's fear now that has to be had. Who do you have that can peel for Keith in these fights? Keith has to be terrified of the horse right now.
Yeah, you've got to be worried. You've got to be buying your time here as Keith, making sure your positioning is correct, as they're going to commit 100 Thieves Academy R down towards this bot side, and Tapoon might be in some trouble. Kenby goes a little early. There's the World Ender by Tenacity. They have found Potluck on the box side. Damonte and Luger almost take him down. They aren't going to get the, or actually they do take him down, so Potluck's out of the fight. They are split for 100 Thieves Academy, though. Luger going to buy some time, break some ankles, but he can't do it. Can he, though? He gets away from the re-engage of Kenby. And Kenby gets the kill. There's the Onslaught of Shadows. The unstoppable Onslaught used in return to get Tapoon out of there. But great heads-up plays coming out for 100 Thieves.
It is hysterical because 100 Thieves still has this side lane top catch that's just munching away at people. And they set up for this dive bottom lane. And Immortals goes, okay, I think we can fight. And it just doesn't work out for them as Damonte's there a little bit faster. It's Mid who shows up a little bit quicker and is able to get the kill onto Potluck.
Potluck
gets caught out with that W. Look at that fog of war usage to the E. The ultimate comes through, only 100 health. That's how much Syndra ultimate does. And Pretty tries
I was just about to say, you're lying here, Rebel.
But then Kenby makes a miraculous pinch right here to make sure that
devastating charge. Oh my god.
Yeah. Rooted as well. The ultimate wasn't available for Pretty right yet. I do say the end of that play, they might have been able to catch Sion with absolutely flawless play, but they got more than enough off the back of that one. As the dive on a Sion was never the play. Instead, the 2 kills they found in the jungle were more than they needed.
And the deadly duo of Damonte and Luger there on the Senna, and the just being able to at least get the Syndra ahead in some aspect of it.
Yeah.
I do want to re-mention, though, Potluck was able to secure that second Rift Herald, right?
Yes.
So they do still have some advantages to gain. Where they want to use it is the important key. It does look like we're getting a lot of focus towards this top side. Could be just trying to take this top side tower out.
And it might. Putting a lot of pressure into Tenacity right now to shut him down, as Joey's not going to find anything. Rift Herald will be able to find a fair amount. They are putting a lot of members, though, into mid lane here from the side of 100 Thieves to try to respond. So they lose top tower. Do they gain mid-inner or mid-outer tower for the opposition? Do they find a bit of gold back?
They just want the dragon. Right. Oh, wait. Pretty's getting very low. Does still have the parallel convergence there, as well as the chrono break if he actually doesn't have it anymore. Pretty's getting very low. Tenacity's taking a 1v3, and Puma's arrived now, as that was almost a close call for the side of IMTA, but they pull out when they needed to.
And the mid lane tower is able to be broken by 100 Thieves, and as you said,
and
the setup for
Dragon
is far better. Yeah, they absolutely have that. They already had bot side push with this Tom Catch side lane for some reason, and that's just working out so well. No aggression to come out against that, so they're just leaving it be. As now, in the opposite side of the map, from where the strike was from IMT, they're able to make a counterplay with this Dragon. Even better, yes, you were able to get a charge onto this bottom or top inner for IMT, which I think is the one caveat, is maybe that top inner will fall with a little bit more pressure, but at minimum, you basically trade off Dragon for a bit of gold into the pockets of, I think it was 3 or 4 members that were there for that top side dive. I don't think that's worth it from the side of IMT.
And you also, you know, the top lane, the solo lane, Tom Kench gets his tower too. So, you know, everything works out for
That's real concerning to me, I will say.
But as the compositions are kind of lining up here, we're about cresting that 20-minute mark, right? We don't have like the huge leads. It's still on a knife's edge. I think the biggest thing for me is how Tenacity has been playing these team fights. He is such a menace. Everybody has to focus on him when he enters the fights, and then you have so many other things to deal with. That Tenacity is key to how 100 Thieves Academy can take the rest of these games.
100%. When you've got a front line with a Hecarim, with an Aatrox, and with a Tom Kench, it's difficult to burst through that, especially with the sustain they've got. Kenvi gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar, though.
Yeah, parallel convergence comes out. Kenvi gets away with the use of the Onslaught of Shadows over the wall into the Baron pit. Almost a good catch out there by IMTA, but unable to get that trigger pulled, and it will just be a little bit more time bought by 100 Thieves Academy.
I think mostly because Tenacity was able to shove in top lane. They felt like they had that, but a counter invade into blue buff here, trying to find Kenvi again.
Botleg needs to be a little careful. Yeah, all members from 100 Thieves Academy that are up on this top side map kind of collapsing onto him. He is an Udyr really quick, able to get away from that one. And Demonte gets the blue buff this time around.
It's too little too late. You can't convince me.
No.
Like, at this point in the laning phase, it's not going to worry too much, but the push will be here. Blue's going to help him no matter what, but it would have been helpful earlier when it came to the laning phase. As Pretty's been able to get out pretty much unscathed. Is 0, 1, and 2 did get picked off in that jungle, but again, for the amount of damage that could have been done by the Syndra into this laning phase, I think you take that if you're Pretty. You're 100% fine with that. Now it's about, again, if you find picks with Echo, that's humongous to start your fight, as you don't have your consistent damage, but Aatrox still persists as a problem that could exist. Demonte
almost gets caught on the edge, but is that going to be it for Pretty? Can't get the kill there as Poom joins with that Abyssal Voyage. Almost there for IMT, but that's starting to be the call now, right? It's been almost a couple times. When is it going to actually happen?
I was worried there because I was sweating for a second because Syndra used that E to try to punish Keith. And Demonte, like, he sees the corner get rounded by Pretty, and he had to be panicking at least a little bit, but didn't even have to burn the flash because you're not worried down there. Even bottom lane tower, which is getting free shove by Tapoon, doesn't even go down. Across the map, it seems like you said, almost has been the word here from IMT, where they're so close to breaking open a number of these plays, but just haven't been able to make too much stick, as we're once again in a bit of a lull. 2 minutes until the next dragon, and that could be a sole point to be gotten to by the side of 100 Thieves, which would again start to force some of these fights that they're looking for. And at that point, Tenacity's probably on 2 items probably completed for Demonte at that point, and their damage really starts to come together.
And I just think that's something I want to highlight back onto the point that we're talking about the almost and things like that. Like we said at the beginning, 100 Thieves are looking to scale up. They have a lot of scaling in Luger who can get those souls going. Syndra gets so menacing in the later parts of the game. But you've got, and we were talking about like IMT trying to pick up the tempo a little bit, get some of that early skirmishing going in their favor. It hasn't worked out. And at this point, you do have scaling on your side, but you're looking across the board and you're seeing Luger, who has been such a strong performer for 100 Thieves Academy on this Senna, and you know what those laser beams can do past 30 minutes or so. Like, you've got to keep up that tempo. You've got to keep trying to find these advantages at this moment.
And they haven't been able to find much, that's for sure. As if these dragons start to go over and 100 Thieves begins to control this map, it becomes very difficult for IMT to find, especially if they've got pushing power and they're able to move up their ward line, it becomes very difficult to find like Potluck to get an entrance to a fight, Pretty to find an entrance to a fight, barring like a good TP flank. And Joey loses a bit of creativity with his ability, because like you think, if you try to jump in as Joey just straight up or even flash and jump in, or something like that, Demonte just is able to E you away, and suddenly
Yeah.
your engage is just completely wasted. So like you have to be more creative with some of these champions. But if you lose your kind of placement on the map when it comes to these towers and such that have been being removed by 100 Thieves, all of a sudden your wards aren't there, you're getting spotted out ahead of time, and you don't have that level of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. As Parallel Convergence came out from Pretty, just trying to catch Poom there. Something I do want to highlight is Luger has officially crossed that 100 souls mark, which is a lot of damage coming out already from the Senna. We'll see how that works out. We do have that 20-second marker until the dragon spawns. Both these teams put a lot of focus around the objectives up to this point. But with 100 Thieves Academy on Soul Point potentially here, that could be the difference in the pressure and the tempo around the map.
They're going to shove up mid lane immediately, and they're going to have a wave here as Echo backed in top side. Yeah, Tenacity's already on the Dragon. He shoved up bot lane, so honestly, he could just try to solo this, and they could be using that. They're moving through top side vision to go towards the Baron pit, which is a really interesting little mind game as it pulls Potluck to top side, but it's Tenacity soloing this Dragon. I don't know that it was fully in their intention, or if IMT wasn't able to read this at all, but still, even if it pulled a little bit of attention away from the rest of the map, impressive stuff is now...
Look how much those laser beams are doing already. He's the tank. Tapoon has to flash away, and they found the follow-up. Tapoon's still alive for a little bit longer, but the Onslaught of Shadows comes out to make sure that is not true. Demonte gets the kill, and 100 Thieves are bearing down the mid lane.
They are third Dragon. This team's got the 2,500 gold lead right now. It is all 100 Thieves for the moment. And again, there's not much you can do to counter siege right here unless you find a good Echo or a gold rel engagement. But with no Tapoon, your front line is a little bit sloppy as well.
Thought the engage was going to be there, but the World Ender immediately comes out from Tenacity, stopping any of that shenanigans. Can be... might have got himself out a little bit. Gonna have to pop the ghost. Pops the devastating charge. Try to get away. There's Killer Instinct. And Keith gets the kill onto Kenvi. That
was a little bit overextension. Now the Baron
just doing the Baron.
Side of IMT. That probably might have been exactly what they needed. They got to force a fight right here, right now, as Demonte and Tenacity both will have to TP to try to prevent this from happening.
TP in the lane a little bit far away from the Baron pit. He's got to try to make it here with the speed. There's Tenacity as well. Baron at about 5,000 health. Can they get in the pit? No Kenvi here. And the Baron is at 2,000, getting lower as the sun starts to set. There is Potluck securing the objective. Tenacity's in the pit all by himself. Demonte is caught out by Keith. As the Chrono Break comes back through, the Unstoppable Onslaught came out to try to follow up, but Tapoon is not able to find it, and that's a quick 2 kills back, and the Baron for IMT Academy.
Kenvi gets caught clearing a ward inside of the Baron pit, and that was enough to shift this game completely in the favor of IMT, who now hold a gold lead and a Baron buff to work with. You see Kenvi, he goes over the wall, he stops to clear this. They know this team was coming. They think maybe going this. Yeah, I think the W or the Q actually hit it, and now you see all of a sudden, instead of running directly up, instead decides to run for his own jungle, but that's close enough for Potluck to end up landing the stun. Keith gets to ult in, and now there's no smite, because the resets weren't there from Tenacity and from Demonte, so they can't even TP directly into this, as this whole river is just completely controlled by IMT, who snatched this opportunity. And yeah, you get kind of close. Tenacity tries to go over the back of the wall, but there's no vision. There's not much for them to accomplish right now. Best they could have hoped for was like a 10% chance that a W from Cinder or something grabs something, but instead, Joey finds a perfect engage angle, gets a kill onto Demonte. Tenacity went into the pit, ends up dying to Keith, and all of a sudden, 100 Thieves, everything they had worked for completely unravels.
And off the back of that, the shutdowns help as well. You get that fight, you get that advantage, you get that extra gold sack in your pocket. And as you said, IMTA coming out on top, having the lead now, having control over the map as you see them continuing to press it up.
They do. It's now the composition that should have been behind in gold to start with, because that's where 100 Thieves had let them, who get shutdowns onto Keith, who's now exceptionally powerful on the Kai'Sa, and even the Echo has started to come back on 2.5 items, nearing that Void Staff for that pressure. This becomes a little more difficult when you got Baron to siege down these different towers. This is a lot of gold coming back to IMT to compete, so this next Dragon fight is going to be a lot worse than what like 100 Thieves probably should have had at this point.
We'll see what their defensive setup is here, as IMTA are definitely looking for some catch-outs, looking for some picks, as Pretty has to use that Chrono Break to get back. Just wanted to try and find Demonte off the back of it, but it looks like they're going to temper that aggression. They're going to back off a little bit, try and get some resets, and get back onto the map for this Dragon.
Hey, check out this ward line. They've got this very, very amazing ward line all the way down the base right there. Kind of scouting out if they're going to move through mid. You're going to get this beautiful shot. Observers, thank you. You're smurfing right now, showing this fantastic vision line, as it's near impossible to aggress against this dragon if you don't have the ability to walk in. So 100 Thieves, they're going to have a tough time approaching this. They're shoving through mid lane right now. Damonte has the ability maybe to shove out top lane, pull a tower, and then move down. They could also just choose to give up the dragon. They don't really care that much. They're not down too much in terms of gold, and their composition still scales really well into later stages of the game with this Aatrox having enough. And maybe they just give this one away. Maybe they give the possibility of IMT to come back with this dragon counting instead of forcing for the soul.
Oh my god, Pollock is so quick with that that Chem Tank Purifier, but not going to be able to find the engagement there right before they wanted to. That's the thing I was going to say, is that's the biggest scary point for me, or the thing that makes me more terrified, is like the catch outs while you're waiting for the scaling. And they have so many triggers to pull on the side of IMTA. They have, Pretty being able to get those long range engagements, the follow up from Pollock just being so quick. You have to really be careful about your positioning on the map, as you see 100 Thieves Academy have decided to group all 5 in the mid lane.
Again, I don't know that fighting for this is perfectly in favor of 100 Thieves. I know they like this fight. It's like right on the brink of starting right now, and I know tension's climbing as this dragon might be the fight. I don't think this is the rock 100 Thieves should die on, but they apparently do, because they're going to start this one up, I think.
They want to try to get it. Tenacity's a bit split. Kenby has to go golden here. There's the unstoppable onslaught in the middle, but Tapoon's already going to go down. They get the dragon anyway, so that's going to be 2 dragons secured for IMTA, but they do lose Tapoon.
Okay, consider this, in fact. So 100 Thieves, they know for a fact that IMT is going to be going for dragons because they can't give up the soul. They don't want to give up the soul. But that means that they're always going to be in a clustered area. So 100 Thieves, if they're able to pull 1, 2, 3 kills off the back of a dragon fight, even if they give away the dragon, that's gold coming back into their pockets right there. They stole Tapoon as a kill. That's a couple hundred gold that's going to be back in their pockets. Only 1,000 gold even after the Baron buff. Maybe that's the tactic for 100 Thieves, is use these big kind of moves from IMT to take these dragons as a way to deny their soul to get some of the gold back. Maybe that's what they need. It's a perfect idea to come to execution. They have another 5 minutes until the next one's going to come through. So until that comes up, the Baron is probably the next thing we're considering in about a minute.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we are seeing that center of pressure on the map for 100 Thieves, where they can dictate kind of how these next objective fights go. You are on that soul point, as you said so nicely, Immortals know they need to fight over this. It is just a Cloud Soul, but you can't give that over to this team composition, because you're going to be looking at Tenacity, you're going to be looking at Kenby when they engage on you and be wondering what happened. So I really want to see how these next couple minutes pan out, because I feel like the game is on a serious knife's edge here.
It felt really heavily like it was in favor of 100 Thieves until they threw. And all of a sudden, IMT has a bunch of pressure. Ooh, onto Damonte goes Potluck. He is the fastest right now with this Chem Tank, pressing that E and pressing everything that he needs to. Didn't even need Flash to get on top of Damonte right there. Not quick enough to pull that E. Tenacity's pushing on bot side. This Baron is the setup right now from the side of IMT. TP is available for Tenacity. They're backing because they have the setup and they're just looking to spend a little bit of their gold. But this is really close to the Baron timer. They must just not be afraid at all of 100 Thieves taking this one away.
I just have to be a bit worried of the positionings right now as that Baron does spawn. If the Baron goes down, that could be it for either one. They have so much strength coming off the back of one of those objective takes, one of those fights. And as you see, 100 Thieves Academy trying to get that priority in mid lane if they want to go for either of these objectives.
Keith is huge right now. You see him, he's on 4 completed items, and this is the guy that you're looking for to help carry through these fights. It's exactly the member you're looking for. So 100 Thieves, if they're looking to fight, that's who you got to put the target onto, is to make sure you find this Kai'Sa, because if Kai'Sa gets brought down, there's no chance IMT is able to take a fight whatsoever. And like you said, this Baron buff is a setup for IMT to continue this gold lead and to start pushing in ways that they couldn't before, because they're all melee. But if it's taken by 100 Thieves, all of a sudden they have wave setup to look for this Cloud Soul and to be able to kind of transition this into a little bit of a later game team fight. When Tenacity gets that movement speed buff on that Aatrox ultimate, there is not much that can run from it.
You see, it's so close to being an engagement. IMT just looking for the picks. 100 Thieves trying to get repositioned all together, Rebel. And this next fight is going to be a huge one for either side. They're both buying their time. The tension is so high, you could cut it with a butter knife. We'll see what happens in these next few minutes as both these teams, I still really love that 100 Thieves Academy are pushing up this mid lane, trying to get that priority. But here's the engagement for IMT. They want to go for the fight, potentially. Parallel convergence on the backside of it. Not going to be really used, but Pretty goes in anyways. There's the gobble up by Poom, and Luger is out. The fight's already going for 100 Thieves, and Luger pulls the Dawning Shadow trigger, as that's a huge shutdown, and 100 Thieves have stolen away the fight.
The force from Pretty to get onto the back line is completely thwarted by this Tahm Kench, who's been in a side lane all game. I feel like they've forgotten that that's why you pick him at the support role, is for that protection. So Pretty gets denied by the Tahm Kench, gets brought down by Tenacity, and the rest of this fight, there is no other damage dealer except for the likes of Keith, who ends up getting brought down as well, as there's just too much in front of him to have to deal with. That fight did not go the way IMT wanted. They end up getting ace right there. Baron's gonna go over the side of 100 Thieves, and only 1 minute out from a Cloud Drake as well means 100 Thieves have grasped control of this game once again.
And Demonte is just sitting there. I'm fine with this. You gave over everything on the map for my kill. That is completely fine. That full ace comes out. The Baron achieved by 100 Thieves Academy, and they're setting themselves up to take this game.
And IMT's racing out to try to take this this Cloud Drake, which could be a second shot. The thing is, if they grab Cloud Drake, they extend this game a little bit longer, because I don't think the base gets broken with 100 Thieves. But if they lose a fight, game's over. That's it. That's complete. That's the final buzzer going off, and that's 100 Thieves able to take the game. Even if they lose the Cloud Drake, the game continues, because Cloud Soul, it's impactful, but it's at least something you could try to play around. But if you lose a fight right here with Baron buff, there is no response to 100 Thieves. So they have to play very carefully around what they choose to do around this Cloud Soul.
Keith already starting it up. Nobody really in position. You still have Tapoon trying to come around the top of the horn as the Dragon's going to be pulled out. 100 Thieves starting this up. Immortals do not want to give over this soul. You see the fight in their eyes. You see the potential here. But Kenvi and Potluck are on the Dragon. The Dragon gets reset, buying a little bit more time for IMT. IMT take the Dragon, but what happens in the fight afterwards? 100 Thieves want to follow this up onto Pretty, but cannot find it. They pull the trigger, though. The Onslaught of Shadows, and Pretty is down.
Okay, that's real bad. So Baron buff here. It is Cloud Drake that goes over to the side of IMT, but it's complete waste, because they just do not care now on the side of 100 Thieves. You have no threat into Luger. You have no threat into Demonte, even with the likes of the Tahm Kench. They just don't have the protection to keep them both alive if he's up. But Pretty now, it does not exist. They have to play a front to back down a man, and they have to try to somehow cut through Aatrox and through this front line while Luger's still throwing autos in. I think this game's just over.
Luger is popping shots right now, and 100 Thieves are looking to join him. Dawning Shadow comes across, and IMT are routed. IMTA are going to be taken out of the Proving Grounds, and 100 Thieves Academy have stolen it away. They take down the last tower, they take down the last member, and 100 Thieves are here to stay.
Oh my goodness, 100 Thieves, they tried their best in the middle of that game to not give anything back to IMT. That one kill from Kenvi almost caught them enough to get IMT back into it. But team fight, team fight, team fight. Every time they get the 5-on-5, this team looks as electrifying as they did back when 3 of their members were on Next, and they're able to continue on in the Proving Grounds.
Just the performance from Tenacity on this age. I know there's so many people we could talk about in this one, but my God, the early game from 100 Thieves, being able to pull around the map and then make those decisive calls when it mattered. You cannot expect anything less from this top tier organization.
Not even a little bit. The talent that they've been able to bring in, and you get to watch a couple of these fights as they come through. As Tenacity, this was one of the first plays in the game. They were able to shut out a fair number of members. They get that dive onto the back line. Like, this team playing as 5 members is so lethal compared to any other team. And yes, there were moments where they gave a little bit back to the opposite side. Kenvi getting caught out almost cost them. But again, when they're in these proper setups and they get what they want in terms of their fight, that's all that they need to just look so impressive. Their lanes are strong. strong individually as players. They're really good, but it's when they come together that the sum of their parts is far too high for other teams to have to deal with. As you saw, a great example right there. Poom protecting Luger, Tenacity tearing through the mid fight, nobody able to actually do anything when Demonte goes down as IMT. They waste everything just for that one kill, and then all of a sudden this game completely flips back into the favor of 100 Thieves.
Yeah, oh my god, there's so many things going back and forth in this series, in this game, in the last game here. Like, we didn't even get the soul. We had 3 dragons apiece, but it did not matter because the calls coming out from 100 Thieves Academy were too strong. Pretty getting caught out there at the end, that feels so bad because you're not there to set up the defense for your team, and they just shove it straight through to your Nexus.
And that's all that was necessary. That last dragon fight, I'm still convinced, like, there were so many ways it could have gone, but IMT, all they had to do was not lose anybody. If they don't lose anybody around that dragon, they are able to mount a defense, you're able to continue the game, but unfortunately, because of the loss of that Echo and all the pressure and the damage it brings in the team fights, you lose out, and it's a tough loss because that was so close to the series. Even like game 1 wasn't super for them, but game 2 was dominant. Game 3 was really close, and they fought really hard. But unfortunately, they're going to end up losing out and dropping out here in the Proving Grounds as 100 Thieves gets to continue advancing. That team has excited me from day one, and I'm very, very ready to see what they can do eventually.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited to see 100 Thieves. I just love it. Like, and a little bit of that history with the 3 next players coming through, still seeing them in the scene, still seeing them being able to succeed in the ways that we've seen them succeed for so long. But I gotta, as you were kind of saying, we got to turn our attention a little bit more to IMTA. I think they've had a really good run up to this point. I think they've had a really strong, at least showing as a team, as an organization here in the Proving Grounds. And yes, it's sad to see them leave, but there are so many promising names on this squad. Especially, I know he got caught out the last little bit. Pretty going down was a huge piece to why 100 Thieves were able to take that game. But being able to see him perform in that game 2, being able to see him perform in that game 3 on the Echo, like, there's so many pieces to this team that look good going on in the future.
IMT's got a lot to build on. I think that's absolutely true. Like I said, it's a tough loss to swallow if you're on the side of IMT compared to 100 Thieves, but you absolutely have the players there. I want to see them continue. Like, when you've got Tapoon and you've got Pretty, these are players that could absolutely continue to develop and become very, very big mainstays within professional leagues anywhere, and especially within this academy scene. They look amazing against just about any matchup. So IMT, there's plenty to be proud of, despite what might be considered an early departure. Obviously, you don't want to lose this early. No one wants to lose this early, but your competition's there as well. So let this inspire you, I suppose. Let this be the fire that burns to continue your development for these younger players, for these new guys that you're able to bring in from apart, because when it's together, it looks real good.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, I really hope that veterancy for the 3 members, Potluck, Keith, and Joey, like, that comes to fruition here for them, because it's tough taking a loss like this. It's tough getting knocked out, but having that veterancy, having players that have kind of been through those moments, and being able to, like, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and continue grinding, continue growing, is what I want to see from IMTA. Like, I need to see it, because I need to see these players again. They are so good when they're all together, when they're performing well, and I hope so that come around summertime, we're looking just as strong.
Yeah, and even more excited to see 100 Thieves continue to perform up against other Academy teams, because, again, set our expectations high during the Academy series, set our expectations high during Northern Arena, and now they were close to getting knocked out, but they're not going to fall yet, so they're going to continue on in the tournament and get to play up against their opposition of the second series of the night when that gets to the chance. But congrats to 100 Thieves, who made, again, every one of their players excites me, every one of their team fights excites me. They got some things to clean up, but this team looks real good when they're together.
I hope the aggression stays key. I will, like, look into that second game a little bit, I hope, for them, because I do think that there were some things to clean up in that aspect, maybe a little confidence coming out in that draft, but I still think they had the right ideas, right, in that one, and so you can still pull a lot of experience away from that one and realize why you lost kind of in the earlier game against IMTA. But the other 2 games, smashing. The decisions around the team fights, the objective controls, that kind of stuff was to a T.
That it was. We're getting a chance, actually, to talk to one of these 100 Thieves players, Mr. Mazel.
We are.
Are you excited?
And, yeah, it's going to be a great time. I'm really excited to hear who we are going to be getting at some point, as we will be getting that interview ready for you all, and ready for us at least. But, I do want to go back to, like, why we're here, right? Proving Grounds as a whole has been a really incredible moment in terms of, seeing the semi-pro action, seeing the connectivity between the academy scene and these amateur scenes, and really getting these teams putting their all ball here. Like, this is an elimination match. These are academy teams. Like, that is insane that we're seeing one of these teams knock out, especially in IMTA, who have been one of the strong seeds, were one of those strong seeds, and kind of fall out here. But like, the fact of the matter is, like, this whole Proving Grounds has been a bang.
That's a fantastic way to put it. I would say specifically, it's really cool to get to see teams inside of a tournament setting instead of side of a season setting. So it's like, okay, Academy used to be 10 teams. They do double round robin. It feels like during the middle of the weeks where you go like week 3 to like week 6 or something like that. It's like, oh, we lost the game. Like, oh, we lost the game. Where now it's like do or die, making sure that you absolutely have to play your top every single day. And the games are stacked and it's tough trying to do like like scouting and that. It got a little bonusy, especially for like amateur teams and academy teams, and they're playing each other in this cross map. There's plenty to work out, right? But like seeing them in these do or die moments, seeing these teams have to fight for their lives, it's what gets us the ability to see what these teams are actually made of. And I think that's the coolest part, is getting to see what these teams are really made of when they're right at the precipice of being able to step into the professional level for LCS. Because we don't get this that often. When you're playing on the world stage, you're not playing a whole season, you're not playing a double round robin, you're playing for your life every single game. And that's the kind of, I think that's the development that we need for some of our younger players when they want to step into the professional scene.
Well, and just, the stress of going through these moments really builds onto that and really helps you kind of shore up those weaknesses. It is stressful. It is a long slog. There's a lot of things to go through, but it means a lot, at least, to be able to pull those away and kind of come through with some advantages. But I've gotten word, Mr. Rebel, that we're going to be getting our interview now. It will be 100 Thieves DeMonte coming in for the Verizon post-game interview. DeMonte, my man, how you feeling after that banger of a series, that boxing match of a series, if you will?
Yeah, that was a crazy best of 3 for sure. I think one of the craziest I've ever played.
I can absolutely see it. I have to say, I was very happy to see the performance in game number 1, just the shellacking that you guys were able to deliver to IMTA. Then a little bit of faltering in the gameplay, at least in game number 2, but coming out strong game number 3. That extremely tilted match right there, back and forth over and over again. What the one question I want to ask, like at the end there, when you guys caught Pretty, was it immediately everybody saying go go go, we got the game, or what?
Yeah, I mean, once we caught Pretty, I think. I just told my team, I was like, we knew Kaisa had no flash from last fight, and I still had flash from last fight, so I just said, if I have the angle, I'm going to flash on Kaisa and try to kill her. And after we took the inhibitor, the call was just basically like, let's look to end one time. Like, let's just look for it one time. If it doesn't work, we'll back up. And it ended up working, so we got the end,
Now, I have a little bit of a different question for you because I'm really excited about this. You step onto this 100 Thieves roster with a bit of veterancy, having played for like the 100 Thieves roster and a couple of other professional teams, but you're playing with players who have come through now a more modern kind of farm system, despite that you came through Challenger Series. So what would you say the big difference between your upbringing, getting you into professional league, compared to these new guys like Kenvi, Tenacity, who stepped in?
Shoot, I back in the day, it used to be a lot different for sure. It used to be more of like I want to say like underground almost, more of like a come up through the struggle. But I feel like now a lot of the kids coming up now, they really get some good treatment, and I think it'll like speed up the process of these players a lot. So I feel like a lot of these players that I'm playing with right now, and even the ones that I'm playing against, I think a ton of them have a lot of potential, and it's honestly pretty nice to see, because I haven't been around the academy scene, haven't been paying attention to it really, but I kind of realized that these players are honestly good. The only things that they're really missing is like, I would say the like macro and just like how to play the game like intelligently rather than just with mechanics.
Yeah, I like it. I like to see that kind of difference in like the viewpoints and how these things kind of work out so far. And being a part of this proving ground so far, like it's been a slog, right? It's been, you guys have been performing so well in certain aspects of it, but going forward, you're either going to be facing Golden Guardians Academy or Zeus Gaming, and going into that match, you've got this match happening after this best of 3 afterwards, but like, what are your guys' mindsets going into that one? Is there somebody that you particularly want to face? Is there anything that's really standing out to you to either of those matchups?
I think it'd be fun to play against Zeus Gaming, because Alarim has been like a longtime friend of mine. She talking about the Academy Challenger Series thing, right? I think like almost 6 years ago now, I played on a team with Alarim, so I think it'd be pretty fun to play against them. I think that'll be a cool matchup.
All right, you hear it. Devontae's rooting for that Zeus Gaming matchup there in the next round. But one last little thing. Do you have anybody on your team you want to give a huge shout out to? Anybody you want to talk about? Because it's been an incredible run from you guys.
Honestly, shout out to everyone. Shout out to Golden Glue as well. I think everyone's putting in a lot of work, and they've been working hard for about 4 months now, 4 or 5 months straight. So yeah, it's the grind out here for sure, and hopefully we'll run the losers bracket. Honestly.
Hey, I love to hear it. Thank you so much, Devontae, for the words and appreciate it. Go celebrate this win, but get ready for that next match.
Yes, sir.
All right, everyone. That was our post-game interview presented by Verizon. Now we get to look at our brackets. We get to look at a little bit of the setup, a little bit of the spice that could be coming out. We're going to be getting into that Zeus Golden Guardians matchup later on today, but 100 Thieves Academy have set themselves up in that third round of the losers bracket.
That they have. Getting a chance to play up against Zeus or GGA should be exciting, especially given their kind of propensity to go for these 5-on-5s. You think about, well, we'll get a chance to talk about it, but I know both these teams that we're going to see soon also like that. So we're bound to get an explosive matchup no matter who their opponent is, as 100 Thieves take the day to. One did a phenomenal set of jobs in their first and third game to be able to clutch that one out. And these youngsters, they're looking good. The Demonte, obviously, that had been able to help develop
looking
them
so good.
as far as oh yeah, absolutely.
Appreciated that little interview we got to have with Demonte. Always good to see the veterancy status coming through. But again, we're going to take a little break. We're going to step away. And when we come back, you've got to be here because we've got Golden Guardians Academy taking on Zeus Gaming, the Toilet Paper Cats.